So I just finished writing in my journal, and I was kind of inspired to kind of talk about something that I reflected on in my entry today. And it's about how a lot of things in life are like connected, you know? I was thinking about like my current career, and I was thinking about work, and I was comparing like how the environment is similar to that of a household, right? And, you know, when you're in work or if you've experienced the workplace, you have two types of places, right? You have a very structured environment that holds people accountable, that has a sense of community due to the standards created, or you have a work environment where it's like a no man's land. There really is no accountability being held, especially in regards to leadership. And I say this in terms of something one of my coworkers said a week ago when they were comparing like different leaders at my job was one of my bosses is like the mother, where like they're cool, but they're not hard on anybody, right? So things kind of slip through the cracks. Versus another leader is the father who holds accountability, who, well, in more extreme ways, pushes the law aggressively to the point of being mean on the surface, even with their intentions. And the comparison I made and why I say everything's connected, I thought about like my life, like my parents. Like I looked at how in my life my mother was this more on the latter of the kind of chaotic sense of she's there for me, but she's not giving me structure, right? To an extreme. And then my father, when he came into my life, was very abrasive and strict on the law. But when you have those two dichotomies, what you lose is continuity. And that's a long introduction to something I want to talk about is the continuity of community. That sounds, I should, I feel like I should make like a trademark for that. Like that just sounds hard. But the continuity of community, right? So no matter if you're building friendship, if you're building an organization, if you're building a movement, if you're trying to build a household, a romantic connection, a relationship, all these things require continuity and things. And I would say, and this is all me just coming off the top of my head and my own analysis of life. So forgive me if I don't sound like intellectually sound with evidence and sources that I'm just going off of what I've experienced in life. And that's the continuity of community requires shared beliefs, standards, expectations, and of course, last but not least, and the most important, you have to have members. You have to have people engaged in this and who actually commit to all those things. And even in the structure of those people, you typically have to have someone who is the leader or the one who's kind of creating the system, right? And this kind of goes into more of like a systems thinking of the world where, you know, everything can be organized in systems and structures and things that make it good and, feasible. And there are things that you can see and patterns that you can see that are counterintuitive to that, that are bad systems, right? And that's why I feel like this is like something that is so important to kind of think about in terms of like how we exist as people in the world now, like presently, So, um, the continuity of community, okay? I think that's something um, we all need to really focus on in terms of how we are living in this world, right? And how we are adding to the systems of the world. On like a a high level, right? Community having shared beliefs. So you can make it a perfect example of this would be religion, right? Religion's one of the best forms of finding community because there is that shared belief. There is a continuity of standards. And of course, you have people, but even more so than that, adding more into it, you have goals, but also you have a scheduled time where you're constantly meeting these people or you're going to church every Sunday. So you're seeing the same people over and over again. I think this is why like so many people, at least from my experience, when I ask like, how'd you find your partner? It's always either from work, school, because there's that level of consistency of seeing someone on a consistent basis through work. Or you find those people at your church or your local religious um place. So whether it's synagogue, a mosque, temple, you find people who share your same beliefs. But in terms of, I guess, the workplace, which is a lot more different, where you have people who have different beliefs, and belief is not necessarily the main, like, fulcrum of the process. You got to have standards, and then you have to have a goal every day. And at least from my experience, I'm currently in like a supervisor role. The biggest thing from leadership and the things that I hear people, and being someone who's been led by supervisors, the things that really ruin that continuity of community inside of a workplace is when you're not fair to everyone. Favoritism is the end of a lot of effective organizations because you make people the exception. And people, we all are aware, we don't like people who are the exception to the rule. We don't like being treated unfairly. And um, again, that's why when you are creating the continuity of community, there shouldn't be any favoritism. Like, yes, there are communities, and not to say like the continuity of community can also lead to negative communities as well, right? Whether that's like a negative power structure group where you have one person who's like the group leader and everyone's falling in line. That is continuity of a community. Is it a healthy one? No, it isn't. It's very toxic, right? And you guys have probably experienced that, whether it's in high school or I will hope not, which it is common now in adult life when you're making friends with people and you start seeing these weird cliques and things, and it's just that's the continuity of community, right? Um, yeah. I think that's all I wanted to say. I just kind of went off my head and kind of want to like talk about that. Let me know your thoughts. I think in the future I'm going to kind of synthesize this idea a lot more, but I just wanted to get it out into a format to where I can just talk it out. So if you guys enjoyed this video, this was Royal versus the World, and we were talking about the continuity of community. At least I guess my mental framework for it now, like a rough draft. Please let me know again your thoughts, your things that you share, maybe your conflicts, and let's create some continuity in that comment section. See y'all in the next video.